You always pick at me. Now she's adjusting me. We are live. Can everybody hear us okay? I just want to make sure. We have 13 fans going in this room. So in this room, it's 148 degrees. No, it's not. It's probably in the high 80s. It's probably in the
I don't even
90s.
think it's there anymore because it's getting cool.
It's cooling down. Well, I think maybe all the hot is going out to the environment to warm up the environment.
If you weren't talking, there would be no hot air in the room.
What?
Hi, this is Nanette.
How is everyone going? This
Wally.
is Wally from Supreme Gecko. We are probably, what are we outside right now?
It's in the mid 70s.
It's
high 70s right now.
It's going to be interesting because we're kicking off on a mini vacation tomorrow. And that's why this topic of what do I do? I'm going on vacation. We're out tomorrow and we're back Saturday night. That's really not a vacation. We're also doing a show. And that's why I'm wearing the Waffles shirt, because the last show that we did was where was the last show?
Madison. That was Sunday.
Scaled Up. We're doing a Scaled Up in the Cross. We had 2 or 3 people show up with the Waffle shirt. It was so cool. So cool. So are we going to worry about, a couple of days and the animals? And not really. We're going to talk about what to do if you're gone 2 days or 3 days or 7 days or a month or a year. No, we're not going to talk about a year. We're going to talk about a normal vacation, a 7-day vacation, and what should you do if you're gone for 2 or 3 days. How's it going, Nanette?
A 7-day vacation, what should you do if you're going to be gone 2 or 3 days?
We're going to talk about mostly the 7-day. If you're gone 2 or 3 days, we'll talk about that as well.
Okay, better.
How was your last week of vacation? Because you've done nothing. You're out of school from your graduation from school, and you're out of school from your teaching. You sat on the couch, you've not helped me downstairs, and you've watched NCIS, right?
Gotta have some Gibbs.
So
I think I'll leave now.
Anybody believe that?
I'm gonna leave.
I don't think you have stopped. You've helped me downstairs when I've woke up at 6 o'clock in the morning and gone down to feed or take care of animals or put away crickets or whatever. You've been running all over the place. We had our granddaughter Aubrey with us this week.
For 3 days?
Yeah, for 3 days.
She came home from Madison with us.
Yeah. Our show on Sunday, our son met us in Madison and said, "Here, take Aubrey." And we said, "Yeah, absolutely." So we've had Aubrey until last night. We took her back to her home. It was a blessing. It really was. She's such a great kid, and she has changed so much as she's grown up. Not to say that she was bad before, but she was a terror before.
She's just not a tornado anymore.
She's not a red tornado. If we're going to call her a red tornado, she's gone from maybe an F4 to maybe an F1. Yeah. So she's like those little dirt tornadoes that you see. So they're not even F1. Yeah, they just do the spiral. So what have you done this week? Just real quick.
I took the girls and where did we go? I don't even remember. We went and saw a reptiles show at the library in Waukesha this week. Crystal was there with Aubrey and showed her how to hold snakes, and they were all over it. And now she's going to be helping the girl periodically at the shows when she's local, which will be fun. And then I took them swimming yesterday afternoon for the whole afternoon. And we just did a bunch of little things around here then. And in between that, I've helped downstairs and getting ready for this weekend. And today I had to go to work for 2.5 hours to get ready for next week's work.
So you're out of school, but you went
teaching
back to school.
But I'm going to be teaching summer school. Half days
7 o'clock
for 4 weeks.
Hey, Dees, you're just on the go all the time. Absolutely on the go all the time. And that's cool in one way, in that you're always busy and time goes by just like that. On the other hand, there's just always so much going on here. But that's the fun part of what we're doing, especially with the grandkids and everything. So I want to know from everybody that's joined tonight, who amongst you have taken a 7-day vacation, and how many animals did you leave at home? And is
Well,
it more than one? Is it one?
You don't take them with you.
You don't take them with you, but how many animals were left behind because you were on your nice vacation and they were home suffering without you? How many people have taken a 7-day vacation or more and left animals? And how many animals did you leave at home when you took your vacation? Throw that in the comments. I'm kind of interested to see that. So we used to have fish. I'm going to go back 30 years or so, and we had 100 tanks, 120 tanks, something like that. How many 7-day vacations did we ever take? Since we've had geckos in 7 years, how many 7-day vacations have we taken? 4. Where are the 4? Where did we go? Canada. 4 times? Were we in Canada 4 times?
I think it was 4 times in Canada.
So what was the worst experience? Yeah, Julie, what is a vacation? What was the worst? I shouldn't say the worst. What was the most unexpected thing that happened on any of those 7-day vacations? Do you remember?
Well, we had 2 things happen. My mom covered, because at that point I did daycare, and we had a kid down the block that we knew that would come in and feed and put some water in certain tanks only, but he was on call if anything was needed. And at one point, one of the kids said, "Grandma, look at the wall, there's a gecko." And it was he had been feeding and accidentally let a day gecko out of one of our tanks, and it was crawling up the wall. So she called him, and he came down and he got the day gecko off the wall and put it away.
No, it does not.
The
DJ was fired after that. I looked him in the eye and said, "Jetson, you're fired."
Yeah, no, he wasn't. He came down so fast and took care of it. He reassured Grandma quick because she was not having it. The other thing that was probably the hardest, and I think it was our second, was you had chameleons.
Oh,
and we had that big container of eggs, and we were feeding and getting things done the night before and talking about something. And I looked up and we realized that they were all starting to hatch. And we had like 30 baby chameleons in an hour and a half that we had to deal with quickly.
And quickly. I mean, we had to get those going like major when we got home. So nothing major.
We never had problems with anything.
We never had any.
Nothing went down, no heat, no problems at all.
And we're going to talk tonight about some of the prep. Now, some of the prep that you can do to make sure that your experience is a good one on vacation. You have to leave. You have to leave on vacation, whether it be 2 days, 3 days, 7 days. JP, I'm going to go back to this. JP said 12 days in Mexico. Holy tomatoes. So you have to take vacations. You really do. You have to get away from things and relax and reset your mind and just get away from everything. But, if you're living on vacation and you're thinking about your reptiles the whole time, is that really a vacation? I know we used to go to the bed and breakfast up in by the Dells, and we would go like on a Friday, Saturday, come home on a Sunday.
Yeah,
it would take me hours to unwind from work and from the reptiles and everything. It would take me hours until I could just go. So you have to do that, but you have to do things beforehand to kind of set your mind at ease and make sure that everything goes okay while you're gone. So we're going to talk, and I don't have much experience with snakes. If you keep snakes, help us out here, because we're kind of going to go through a little bit of a list and talk about mostly reptiles and mostly isopods. I think snakes might be a little bit easier to manage if you go on a long vacation. But help me out if you've ever been on a vacation or have ideas on how people can handle their snakes on a vacation. Kendra, my last 2 times away were 6 days and not for fun. Local friend misting is a treasure. Right. Thanks, Angie. So, and if you have suggestions here, we're going to cover a lot of different ideas, different information here. If you have ideas on additional points that you'd like to make, please go through and comment. Feeding the snake right before you leave, fill water dishes, you're good to go. Yep, absolutely.
The night before you leave, not right before.
The night before you leave. Where's my glasses?
Or no, it does say right. Does it? I can't tell with my glasses on.
Give me your glasses. No, I'm just kidding. So
It looks like an N from here.
if you're gone overnight, leaving on let's say you're leaving on a Sunday, you're not back until Tuesday morning. You're gone for a whole day. Should you worry about your animals? Let me know in the comments. Should you worry about your animals if you're just gone for a day?
Oh.
Should you worry about your animals if you're gone 2 days? Should you do any special prep, anything different? What are you thinking of that?
Just make sure they got water and you're good.
So, but that's normal, right? That's
Right.
pretty much normally what you would do. You'd make sure that your feeding schedule. You'd make sure that your misting with crested geckos or other animals that had to be misted is all kind of up to date. Nick says, I'm about to go to Disney in November and I have 8 crested geckos and then I will have to put out food for them and I'll be away 7 days. We're going to talk about that, Nick. Lots of comments coming in here. Not as long as you check water, you're okay. Right on, right on. So, oh my gosh, but JP, you're saying that I can leave my reptile for a day or two without feeding it? What's going to happen that second day? It's going to go hungry and it might not make it if I don't feed it the second day. We're going to touch on that, but I tell you what, folks, through experience, it really, animals do that in the wild. Animals go without food for a day or 2 or 3 or 4. They do that. Go ahead, Nanette, please.
I'm just stirring a couple.
Yeah. Go ahead if you see something. Yep. And Frank, we're going to talk about that as well.
No.
What's that?
Small camera. You'd never quit watching the camera.
Well, that's a great point. So here's the thing, folks. Should you worry about leaving your animals for a day or 2? You really don't need to worry about them. Should you do anything special for those animals if you're leaving them for more than a couple of days, 3 days? I wouldn't do anything different than what you would do in a normal process, other than before you leave. And again, we'll touch on this a little bit. Do your normal routine before you leave. Make sure, we saw it in the comment just a little bit ago. Make sure that they have a clean water dish full of water, and make sure you feed them beforehand. Make sure that, if you have a snake, all the poop is cleaned up. Make sure that, if you have isopods, you're caring for your isopods. Make sure those isopods have, leaves and food, and their moist area, their hydration station has ample moisture, so that you don't really have to worry about that. And she says she's always gone for 10 days or so. Yeah, that's when you have to start worrying. It's not really an issue if you're going to leave your animals for a day or 2 or 3. You really don't have to do, in my opinions, nothing different. Right on, Kendra. 3 days, you start worrying. I personally, in my opinion, I'm going to start worrying if I'm going to be gone for 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 days, something like that. If I'm gone for more than 8 days, if we're talking about 2 weeks, then I'm doing something completely different. But we're going to talk about the 4 to 7 days range.
Derek had a point too.
Yeah.
He uses a camera because of his turtle in case it would flip. And that's a good point.
Oh, see, and that's something I would never, ever, ever have thought of. Is there anything that you can do in your enclosure to help the turtle to have it avoid flipping? Little blocks to make sure that if it flips, it can get over. You'd have to put them out sparingly, like Legos or something like that, and then you'd leave one out, and I would step on it, and that would be bad. Matthew says what really helps me is to have someone stop by my collection to check everything and the temperatures. That really helps ease my anxiety. Yeah, that's a good point, because you don't want to be worrying about your animals when you're gone. And that's a really good point. Friend or not friend? Let's talk about that. Should you have a friend help? Now, we used to do fish and kind of give everybody a clue on what we did with the fish, as far as, like if we were going to be, if we were going to be leaving for a week with the fish, what would we do? Do you remember?
No,
So what we would normally do
not at
is
all.
prepare the food. So I used to feed a lot of brine shrimp
Oh,
and
the frozen
worms
foods.
and
Okay.
baby brine shrimp, and I would mark the tanks either, or flake food. I would mark the tanks either frozen. And what I would do is, if we're leaving on a, let's say, on a Sunday and we're back the next Sunday, I would ask our friend to feed one time. I'm not going to inconvenience a friend by saying, okay, I feed Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Um, Come in one time, but make that one time, worthwhile. So we would set up trays, and I know we're going off on a tangent, but this is important here. We would set up ice cube trays with baby brine shrimp and mark that with a dot on the baby's tanks. And we would put on that dot one or two or three, because maybe there's a tank with a lot of babies and they need three little ice cubes in it with baby brine. We'd mark a tank, with a different color dot for adult brine shrimp, frozen adult. Throw in one cube. We would mark, no, we wouldn't. We would put out a little cup with exactly the flake food that I would want that tank to be fed. So somebody could come in with 100 tanks. They could literally feed everything. Obviously, they're making sure that the air pump is on and things like that. But they could come in and they could feed everything within easily an hour. Easily an hour. Pull out the ice cube trays, just drop, flake food cups, drop, and you're kind of done. So that's what we did. Oh, what happens if we have eggs, or what happens if the discus layer? It is what it is. I'll worry about that when we get home. Don't worry about anything except put this food in this tank one time while we're gone. If you have a friend over, and what we would do is I'm going to go back to that again because this is important. We would do we would do an actual run with that person, and we would walk through each tank and show them, okay, this is what it means to put to, and I go to the freezer and I pull out this ice cube tray and this ice cube tray and this ice, and we would go through that run and ask them to watch one time before we would leave on vacation. Then once we were going on vacation, it's up to them. Here's our phone number. Anything happens, let me know. So it applies with reptiles too. You can set out certain foods. You could set up ice cube trays with crested gecko diet. And hey, crested geckos, here's an ice cube with crested gecko diet. Put it in the feeder dish and you're done. Um, but I strongly suggest that if you're going to do something like that, go through a run before you go on vacation. Don't just say, hey, come over on Wednesday and look at the notes that I have prepared and just kind of go through the instructions. Have them come in and watch you do it so that they know how to open enclosures, where to put the food, things like that. Should they be very extra careful with these animals? Are these animals fast? Kind of walk through that process. What do you think?
I'm sorry, I was reading a couple comments there. People, Cassandra has a comment up there right now on the screen saying that somebody that she helps when they're gone has a list for them and tells them what to feed where or what. That helps.
Cassandra, how complicated is that list? And that's kind of a loaded question because, as I just said, we as keepers want to make the care for our animals by the person that normally doesn't care for our animals as easy as we possibly can. If we talk about crested geckos and crested gecko diet, another thing that you want to do is, you might want them to miss once while you're gone. So show them how you missed. Here's what you have to do, and pump up and have everything ready so that when they walk in, they don't have to dig through your freezer to find the ice cube trays, or they don't have to, make crested gecko diet. Oh my gosh, how much dry should I put with water? I can't remember what Cassandra said. Make it as easy as you possibly can. If you have people checking, for eggs or checking babies, or that's hard. It just adds on to the complexity. In my opinion, you want them focused on one thing, and that's getting food to the animals, getting moisture to the animals. Cassandra says It depends on the animals, but I've been doing animal care for many years. If you have an experienced, very experienced friend, score. That's a big one for you. Um, there's this record a little how-to video. Oh my gosh, what a great idea. That's an incredible idea. And maybe you do, 2 or 3 feedings. This is how you do, and maybe you want to put dots on your enclosures and say, this is how you feed the red animals. This is how you feed. Derek, we're getting there. Absolutely. This is how you feed the blue dots. This is how you feed the yellow dots. If you have 3 different foods that you have to feed, and then go through one video for the red, one for the blue, one for the yellows. Again, it really depends on the person that's going to be carrying for your animals. If they have tons of experience, then maybe you don't need a very detailed list. If you have a person that doesn't have a lot of experience, I strongly suggest get them over into your facility or to your house and watch you feed and miss one time so they have an idea, and then give them kind of a repeat list or a video. Absolutely. I also send daily updates to the person on how everyone is doing. I tell you what, and I understand that. I'm going to emphasize this. It depends on the person. When we're on vacation, I want to be focused on catching a 10-pound walleye, and that's super cool if you just get a little message, hey, everything's cool. Or I would strongly suggest it again, if it's something very, very, very important, like, hey, the heat went off, it's the middle of winter, what do I do?
It's different.
That's different. That's, emergency, all hands on deck. But you don't want to, for me personally, if I'm on vacation, I don't want to hear that this one laid eggs or this baby hatched out, I just want to focus on vacation. I want them focusing on feeding and missing. That's my opinion. Matthew is saying, I have a friend who takes care of my collection record me doing the tasks I asked them to. Yeah, if you can have the person that's going to take care of the animals record you with a video, then they're kind of, they have that buy-in. They're actually, vetted right into doing the tasks with you.
He also said that a video chat is a great way to do it too.
There you go.
Call you when they're doing it, and you can walk them through
it. Perfect. Cassandra said, and I'm going to get back to our list here. Social media has made life easier. What did I say?
Cassandra.
Oh, Kendra, I'm sorry. Mine was going. Social media has made life easier for me, both helping Angie and having help myself. I'm always available unless I have a huge issue like early this year. What if your husband still messes up directions? Find somebody else. Just have them do it. You just go through the process with them and say, okay, I'm not going to say a word. You're going to do the whole thing yourself. I'm only going to stop you if you kind of really mess up on something.
Fire
them. Jetson. I'm just looking at this.
Yep. Your spreadsheet.
I'm looking at my spreadsheet now. You made me say the word. So we've got a lot of thoughts about friends. In my opinion, again, if you're gone 1 or 2 or 3 days, you don't need anybody coming in to help you. In fact, I think that sometimes that's more of a concern because they might be over looking for potential problems where there really maybe aren't any, and it just causes more anxiety for the keeper and for the person taking care of everything. If you're gone for a week, the better communication you have. God, the video, that was such a great idea. The better, the more clear that instruction is. But don't write a book. You can't write 14 pages on how to take care of your animals because it's going to be a task. It's going to be, oh my gosh, I don't ever want to do this again. What am I doing?
I'm just.
Oh, I didn't.
No, I'm okay.
Okay. What else can I say about a friend? Again, if you get somebody experienced, that's super cool. But you really shouldn't have to depend on somebody that has as many or more animals than you. You really should have instructions, even for somebody like that. You should have, because they're going to have potentially different animals than you do. You should have instructions that are clear to the point and concise. Break down to, put this food in from this red dot. More graphic is better. Did you see anything? Did you want
I
something
put it
coming?
on the screen.
Okay. I've left a detailed list, 20 pages. Who said that? J-Bug. And it still wasn't enough. No more vacations for me.
Wow.
You know, it depends on what your animal's needs are. Again, I cannot think of we have, yeah, I probably said this too many times. So we have a lot of enclosures downstairs. I'm going to do the work. I'm going to do the work. I'm not going to ask my friend to do the work. I'm going to make it as absolutely as simple as possible. I'm going to use dots. I'm going to have, when we leave, they'll have 10 lines on one page. 10 lines on one page. And I'm going to copy them. I'm going to have them read it before I leave. I'm going to have them not sign off, but I'm going to have them say, yes, I understand these instructions. And then we're gone, and my mind is on fishing or I don't know, go down to New Orleans and Mardi Gras or something. I don't know. So I want to be away from the facility. I really do. So that's how we do that. Hi Sandy. Hi Steve. Thanks for joining us. The simpler you can make that list, the more turnkey you can make that list for your friend, the better. If you have a 10-page, my fear is 10 pages of instructions. I might not read that. You know, when I'm loading software from a trusted software company, blah 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 blah, accept terms and conditions. Click. I'm not reading a doggone thing. So sometimes details can be lost when there's too much details. That's my feeling. Okay, it's Sunday. Sunday. You're ready to leave. You're ready to go down to New Orleans with your handful of beads, and you're ready to party. So what do you do Sunday if you don't have a friend? Let's say you have a friend, you've made up that list, and this would help with what you would do with a friend too. But let's say we're right there with the 7 days. So we're leaving Sunday. We're not going to be back until Sunday late afternoon. What do I do Saturday and Sunday? Well, and we had I'm going to cover snakes first. We had the thought of feeding your snake before you leave. And I agree with that, but, and somebody help me with snakes. Somebody help me here. Does a snake, if you feed it, let's say a mouse or whatever, an Eggo waffle, let's say you feed your snake, does it defecate right away? Does it defecate that same day, the next day? I'm thinking if you're feeding your snakes once a week, maybe want to feed on a Saturday so that Sunday you can come in and you can clean up that mess. You want that cage clean. You don't want any kind of messes on. That doesn't mean scraping the sides of glass, and it doesn't have to be perfect. What I'm saying is you don't want a snake with a big glob of stuff sitting there. You want to make sure that that's out so that doesn't cause any issues. So,
fumigate the room.
Yeah. If I'm that friend and I walk in and I have to take care of one snake and there's a big pile of stuff there. Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to do this ever again. So let's talk about isopods. What do I do with the isopods on a Saturday and Sunday? Well, I'm going to feed everything on Sunday. I'm going to cut it down to, we're cars getting packed, and that's doing all that stuff. So I'm going downstairs and I'm going to feed the isopods, or maybe I'm going to ask Nanette to after she packs the car. Isopods are going to be fed. They're going to be watered. They're going to have new leaves. They're going to have everything that they need from a normal care point of view, so that I don't have to look at them again until next Sunday. And, we all know isopods. Yeah, Sunday, probably won't look at them that next Sunday. I'll probably sleep when I get home because I'm the one that has to drive. So,
Mike,
I don't let you drive. I'm the driver here. So by Monday, we're coming back. We're coming back. I think she's getting mad at me. So we're coming back Monday and we're taking care of all the animals. We're checking Sunday, obviously. When we get back from vacation, we're walking down and we're checking everything okay, no major issues, and we're upstairs. But the isopods, water, food, leaves, and that's it. That's pretty much it. Now, Derek is here from Podwix, and I tell you what, if you haven't seen it yet, go back a week ago. Was it a week ago? I lose track of time. And we talked to Derek 2 weeks ago. We talked to Derek about Podwix, a container that holds water that will wick the moisture into your isopod enclosure. So talk to Derek Freeman, and check out last week's or the week before's video on Thursday, live on Thursday. And that might be, thank you, Frank. Thank you very, very much. That might be an option for you if you don't want you if you want to take all the worries about are they hydrated enough. That might be an option for you. Otherwise, isopods are a cake of peace. They're that easy. They really are. You really shouldn't have to worry about isopods, especially if you're going for 7 days. It shouldn't be a worry at all. Just do your normal maintenance. What should you do for your reptiles? Just kind of going down my list here. What you should do for your reptiles is your normal. I'm going to feed and water today. Now, if you do like we sometimes do, we'll feed and then we'll miss, and then we'll feed the next day and then miss the next day. So Sunday, when we're about ready to leave, I'm going to go down and I'm going to feed all the animals, our reptiles, our geckos, and I'm going to mist everything. I'm going to make sure that they have a clean water dish full of water. And if I can't stress one thing more than that, it's make sure your animals have clean water before you leave. That's the number one thing that you have to worry about. But we'll go through, we'll feed, and here's what we will also do. So for crusted geckos, we're going to feed crusted gecko diet, but we're going to make it maybe a little bit runnier than we normally do, and we'll give them maybe another half as much food for them so that they can come in and they can eat Monday and they can eat Tuesday and maybe even eat Wednesday if they haven't finished everything off. So make it more watery and give them just a little bit more. Should you feed? So, okay, I'm gone for 7 days. I feed crickets. I feed 5 crickets every third day. So that's 5, 10. So that's 15 crickets. So should I throw in 15 crickets on Sunday before I leave? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Those crickets will pester your animals and just cause all kinds of issues. You don't have to overfeed on your crickets. I don't overfeed on our mealworms because, if the mealworm is sitting in there for 2, 3, 4 days, all the gut loading benefits, they're gone. So do your normal insect feeding like you always do on that Sunday. Don't overfeed insects. What else? Misting. So we might go through that enclosure and we'll do our misting, but we'll maybe do, crickets can bite. Absolutely. No bueno. So we will go through and we'll mist. I might mist a little bit more. I tell you what, if I have a sensitive animal like to humidity, if I have an animal like a cave gecko, it has to be humid. They have to have that access to moisture. They can't have a dry enclosure. I will go through and I will absolutely make sure that I have a pocket of sphagnum moss somewhere under a hide so that they can get in there and they can hydrate if they absolutely need to. That's a huge tip. Make sure, if you don't have like a crested geckos, if you have an enclosure with a hide, make absolutely sure that hide is moist. Maybe make sure that it's a little moister than you normally make it. If you don't have a hide, let's say for babies, you're doing baby crusted geckos, and as an example, throw a lot of sphagnum moss in a corner and moisten it up, and it'll stay moist and especially if you put something over it as kind of a hide, it'll stay fairly moist for another 7 days. So I get distracted by Steve. Sorry. What else? Clean and full feed. Make your CGD runny and mist. Anything else I do special because we're going to be gone 7 days? I'm going to check for eggs. Obviously, we're going to go to the incubator. We're going to pull any eggs. We're going to pull any babies that we have to make absolutely sure that all the babies are gone. What happens if a baby hatches in 7 days? For us, that's a problem. But the way that we have our incubation set up, if it hatches, day 2, 3, 4, it's going to be okay. It's going to be fine. Must you keep saying that word? Yeah, I know. I have to. Give me another word that I can say instead of that.
Hydration
Station. Hydration. Make sure that they're hydrated.
You had said that this fall you're going to set up containers ahead of time for babies so that if something hatches, they know right where to put them.
There you go. So
damp.
If you have,
you mean capital letters?
Damp. I like that. Are you saying like if you have a friend coming in?
Yeah, if you've got somebody else doing it, you can have a container ready for them.
Have a container, especially for something like crested geckos. You have a small, even a 6-quart with a top, ventilation, and have a little piece of paper towel and a little hide, even cardboard egg carton, whatever, and make sure that paper towel is damp. So
or damp,
and you can kind of talk with a friend with that. Again, if you don't want to give them too much, Oh my gosh, baby, and now I have to take it out of this little cup and I have to put it away. And oh my gosh, it ran on me. Now it's under the fridge. Yeah, make sure you kind of walk through that whole thing.
And it's only if it's a special. I mean, they're all special, but if something really has to be taken out,
JP,
it's going to survive.
Yeah, JP, you are right on. So let's say it hatches on a Tuesday. It's going to go through its normal shed. You probably should be starting to feed it on a Friday, Saturday-ish. But if it doesn't eat that first, day that it's available, or that it wants food, it's not that big of a deal. So a couple. Let me ask everybody, does that kind of cover what you should be doing on a Sunday before you leave? You have any other questions about, oh my gosh, we're going to be leaving, and what should I do just before we leave to make sure that the animals are okay? I'm going to cover a couple of don't do these kind of things and a couple of seasonal things that we want to kind of touch on. Anybody have any questions about that? I'm going to start. Nanette, watch for questions and let me know if there's any questions about that. Did you have one start up here?
I did have something started.
Okay, here we go. Let's show this. Okay, so Dee says if they are egg laying, yes, worry plus the eggs in the incubator. You do, and especially if you have a friend helping. But again, as we just mentioned, if you don't, have a friend to help out, you're going to have to kind of wing it. And most babies are going to be fine, the way that you have them set up for incubation for a couple of 3-4 days. Frank asked any questions. Things to avoid. Some things to avoid. Here's one thing that I strongly suggest not to do. Don't move the animals to a new enclosure. Okay, I have the animals back here set up. Can I point? Maybe because of the way it's set up, I want those animals maybe in another small enclosure so somebody could come in and feed and help out, but I don't want them in there because they're hiding and our friend won't see them. Don't move them to another enclosure. Please don't. That's going to be such a stress. Okay, Nanette's going on vacation. And
am I?
Yeah, without me.
Score.
So before she leaves, she just told our neighbors, Brad and Patty, hey, Wally's going to come over. Just have a little closet for him. Just put him in the closet, and once every couple of days, throw a pizza and a couple of Diet Cokes his way, and he should be fine, and some waffles. He should be fine. No, don't do that. Don't. So your animal should not. Yeah, lucky Nanette. I tell you why.
When am I getting to leave?
Yeah,
tomorrow.
Whenever you want to leave.
Oh, did you hear that, Bugs?
So
whenever I want to.
So don't do anything special like that. Don't move them to another enclosure. It just causes stress. It's just hard for them. Oh, but I know I have 8 baby crested geckos. Instead of them in individual enclosures, they're about 2, 3, 4 months old. I'll just put them together so that the person only has to feed one. Our friend only has to feed one. Or I'm going to put one big dish of food in there for all 8 of them. and that should be cool. No, 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 no. Don't do that, because it just you can kind of watch the things here, and I'm gonna kind of try to watch too. But if you're doing that, if you're moving them together, you don't know what's going to happen. You don't know if they're going to get along. You don't know if one will bully. You don't know if it's too much going on in that one enclosure. Is there enough food? Is there too little food? It's hard to manage. It really is. So my strong suggestion is, the less you do to those animals, moving the enclosure, moving them to another enclosure, the better off you are. Um, Oh, I only have one animal. So I tell you what, they're in a 10-gallon. So I'm going to pick up that 10-gallon. I'm going to put it in the back seat of our car. I'm going to drive to my friend Karen's house, and I'm going to drop off the animal. And she's going to watch the animal at her house to save her a drive and save her the troubles. Nope. If you have heat pads, if you have any kind of heat requirements, that's a really, really bad idea, because now you're setting it up, and it's just way too much of a hassle. And number two, that whole transportation process is more stressful to the animal than just leaving it as it is, and ask the friend to come over, make a visit, and feed the animals, take care of the animals at your house. Don't assume that um, you can move them to her house. And what if they have kids that are inquisitive? There's so many things that could go wrong with something like that. Should you, oh my gosh, I'm going to be gone for 7 days. I think I'm going to try this new food because it's supposed to last longer, or it's supposed to be more palatable to the. Don't try new stuff. Don't try new foods. I'm going to throw in just a bunch of crickets, because I know I feed occasionally, and now I'm going to throw in a bunch of crickets because they'll last longer. Don't try new foods. You want this to be as, you know, seamless to the animals as you possibly can get it to be. Did you have some questions tonight? I saw you.
Yeah. J-Bug wants to know what to do when an animal darts out of the tank. She has a Krusty who jumps right out as soon as the tank is open. Then he scurries up the wall. Laura solved the problem, and she said, provide a face shield for the helper.
a little. They make little tasers for crusted geckos. A little taser.
No.
What? It works for ours. No.
Don't be saying that on a live show.
Might I suggest, or J-Bug, when does that happen? I tell you
Every
what.
time she opens the tank.
Well, when are you opening the enclosure? Now, a lot of times we'll go downstairs later in the day, like at 7 o'clock, and we'll feed because it's close to nighttime, nocturnal animals. So sometimes some animals are already active. So the best thing that you could do is like a crusted gecko, especially if you have animals that are more nocturnal, crepuscular. They're not day animals. What you can do is you can visit them and do whatever you need to do other than moving plants. What you can do is you can go in like in the middle of the day, and they'll be less bothered. If you're thinking that they're still going to jump out, I think the best thing that you can possibly do is look at, if it happens all the time, especially if you have a concern about, the animal getting caught because you're closing the door or jumping and getting away, maybe think about a different enclosure, a style that you could work with. If the animals, maybe something, you can't see it, but we have one of the Doobie enclosures here where I can open it from the right side or I can open it from the left side. If the animal's over here, I'm going to open the door on the left side. I hope that's left to everybody watching. So we can kind of gauge where the animal is and open the other side. If you have a terrestrial animal, then maybe you want something that opens from the top. If you have a arboreal animal, maybe you want something that just opens from the very bottom. If you're feeding at night, it's maybe active and it's ready to jump and play, and
every time, anytime.
Every time, anytime. So maybe think of a different enclosure style. Think of more plants. If you have more plants, maybe it will feel a little bit more secure and not jump around a hole as much. You're never going to stop that, obviously.
Okay, JP's Lizard said one thing to avoid is don't leave a setup door open on the day that you leave. So do you understand what that means?
Oh, gosh,
okay.
Yes.
I had to read it 3 times, but don't be like a tank that already had animals in it, but it could also be one that you're working on, is what the way I take it.
I am.
That would be a fun.
I am assuming that it's one of those oops
I
where
did
yeah,
that.
son of a
Oops,
gun.
I did it. All right. The other one is emergencies, like when you have a power outage in the situation, or any thoughts as far as preparation for someone to come in and take action.
We're going to talk about that, Nanette. If you don't mind,
Okay.
remember that right there
Sure.
in our script. I don't want to deviate from our script. We'll get to that.
Heaven forbid.
Heaven forbid.
Angie said, what about throwing in dubias for food?
Dubias are great. What I would do is, let's say you're feeding crested geckos or you're feeding gargoyles or something like that. You're not just feeding anything. Use some type of, and you want to do this before you go on vacation, obviously. Test out different dishes. We found that glass, clean glass, no water, not dirty, because dubias will walk up. If you've been using the cup for a while, weeks and weeks, get a little residue on the side, dubias will walk right up that. So use a brand new, fresh cup, clean, that has smooth sides, and you want to kind of play around with it. Bigger cup that the animals can get into, obviously, that the dubias can't get out of. You want to feed out of that cup. I would never, ever, ever suggest dumping dubias and running. They're just going to hide somewhere. I swear, I've got to tell this story now. Everybody know what Urodactyloides is? It's the chameleon gecko. They're about, I don't know, about that big. What is that, 3.5, 4 inches? I went in to move a piece of cork bark, and okay, where are they? One's over there and one's over there. Let me move the cork bark. I don't want to hurt them. I don't want to interfere with what they're doing. So I pulled the cork bark, and I feed occasionally very, very small baby dubias, 2-week-old dubias to the Urodactyloides as well as crickets and micro mealworms. But I pulled this cork bark up, and as I'm pulling it out, and I have a very high fear intolerance to anything walking on me that I don't know what it is. And sure enough, I pulled out this cork bark, and here comes an adult male dubia just right on my hand, right down. Now, if I knew it was there, I wouldn't freak out. But because I didn't know it was there, and I didn't expect an adult dubia male to be behind that cork bark, and obviously the Urodactyloides had not eaten it, and it had grown and grown and grown and grown, and probably eaten the crusted gecko diet, dry that was left over. Sure enough, it walked on my hand, and I freaked out, and
bought a new tank.
The dubia went that way, and the cork bark went that way, and no, I didn't have to buy a new tank. So, feeding dubias, just kind of be a little bit careful. But my suggestion is test beforehand different glass containers, smooth ceramic. Make sure that they can't get out. Dubia is great because they will live forever. If you're going to do this, if you're going to feed on a Sunday, especially dubias, or if you're going to feed mealworms, cut up carrots and put the mealworms in the mealworm cup, or the dubias in the dubia dish, and throw a little piece of carrot in there so that if they don't eat them all the first day, second, third, at least the dubias have, something to eat during that time period. What's that?
Angie, she found a tick embedded on her today.
Yeah, I'm just going to move on
how
past
long
that.
it was there. JP said that it was a setup with animals in it. Oops.
I'm guessing. Any other question? I thought I saw Derek had a big question. Or
Derek
with us.
Wasn't that the one I just did? That was the emergencies that I'm reminding you in a little while.
Go ahead and show that just for now, and we're going to address that. So what happens if you're leaving in the middle of summer? And that's kind of the reason I asked. If you have questions, folks, drop your questions right now. If you're leaving in the middle of summer, oh my gosh, it's, it was 90 out today, wasn't it? Didn't it get to be 90 out today?
Yes.
So you're leaving. Do you throw on the air conditioning for your animals for 7 days? That's kind of up to you. You have to do what's best for you. If you have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 animals, maybe what you want to do is, if you're in a house that doesn't have air conditioning or whatever, drop them down to the basement. Maybe drop them, if you have a basement, drop them down to the basement. If you feel like the next week is going to be warm, you might want to throw on the air conditioning light. You don't have to crank it down to in the 60s, but like Nanette likes it. But I'm like 3 covers in the. So I'm just kidding. So you don't have to throw it, the air conditioning on high. Just make sure. What did I do? just throw it on so that it doesn't get past like 75 or 78, whatever you feel comfortable with. Or put your animals on the like on a basement floor where it's going to stay a little bit cooler. Throw a fan next to those animals to circulate the air better. And what that also will do is cool down that enclosure 2, 3, 4 degrees. I can't suggest more strongly, take your enclosures if you can without heat mats, put them down on the ground to cool them down a little bit. Yeah, there's not much you can do, J-Bug. If you, I'm going to come back to this in Derek's in just a second. If you have them in a bowl, they can and do drop the roaches when eating. And also what's going to happen is they're going to go, let's say a leopard gecko, it's going to grab a roach, and while it's grabbing one, another roach is going to jump on its head and play, taxi driver or whatever, and it's just going to get out. I lost Derek's question.
It's on the screen, isn't it?
No, I hit his.
Start.
Okay, I'm going to let you find. Oh, was it in start?
It's in start.
So summer heat, drop your enclosures lower if you can drop them to basement. I tell you what, if you have 1 or 2 animals and you're really, really, really concerned about that, maybe what you do, and I'm going to go against what Wally just said, 15 minutes ago, if you really feel it necessary, maybe you want to ask a relative or a friend, can I just drop this off to you? I mean, that's you're checking temperatures Saturday and Sunday, and you're saying this is going to be too hot and I don't want to chance it. I'm going to ask a neighbor or a friend or a family, can I just drop this animal off with, or 2 or 3 or 4 animals off with you, and can you watch them while I'm gone? So there's not much more than that during the summer, unless somebody has another idea. Maybe give them little pools of water in there so that they can go swimming and cool down, put on their little swim shorts and go take a dive in the middle. No,
the heat is now affecting your brain.
Maybe. Whatever's left. How about cold? What do we do with cold? Oh, I'm sorry. Let's go back. What about an emergency such as power outages? Any thoughts as far as preparation for someone to come in and take action? Yeah, the only thought, Derek, that I have with power is I know that there's, worst case scenario, you can go out and grab a generator if that's a major concern. But that should be a concern, for you, not just while you're on vacation, but during the whole year. We should have a generator. But I tell you what, we've been down one time in, how long have we been in this house?
Long.
20 some years. We've been down for more than 15 minutes, like 2 times? 2 times. Not more than 2.
Last year we were down.
Last year?
Was it last
year? And then with
on the 4th of July weekend when our friends came, we weren't down 15 minutes. We were down hours.
I'm saying we've been down before for a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Yeah.
But other than that, I can count on one hand, 2 times maybe that we've been down for more than 10 or 15 minutes. So, so a generator is one way to go. And they also have, and if I had a link, I'd give you a link, but they also have devices that will alarm and send you a message that will alert you to power outages in your home. If you're worried about, if springtime and flooding, they have devices that you can hook up that would indicate, alarm, send you an alert if you have some flooding in your basement. But that's, what we're talking about now with these special situations. They are serious and they could happen. What we're talking about is more than just your reptiles. What we're talking about, if you're going down in the middle of winter and you don't have any heat, you're like us in the frozen tundra of Lambeau Field, Wisconsin, I would have concerns about the pipes. So if I have an emergency where it's down, and I might have, a neighbor, hey, if we have a problem, give us a call, heads up. If something like that goes and happens, we might be coming home. Mm-hmm. We might be, hey, you know what?
It depends.
We're flying. Give it 8 hours, and hey, do they see a way to get this back? Nope, gone. So we might be flying back. So
somebody had an ice storm.
This is Abby.
Abby had an ice storm over 50 hours. She had no power. We had to pack up in about 30 reptiles and take them to my parents' house. Yeah, that would be ugly here.
That would be ugly. If
Oh.
if we had an issue where we were gone in the winter and we had a power failure, and luckily in the winter we're not incubating that
They're
many
cooling down,
eggs.
but still,
The animals are cooling down. The animals I wouldn't worry too much about. Wouldn't have too much of a concern about. We've gone through, no furnace for twice. How long was the longest without
the
a furnace?
first time was 2 days.
First time was 2 days. So, you work around things like that. But what we're talking about, Abby, with that situation, my goodness, you're scrambling, for your house, for your family, for your reptiles.
Aunt Sandy's skinks has had to go to the hotel with animals and kids because of ice storms.
Oh, there you go. Sandy, that's an excellent idea. We're talking worst case scenario, but can you pack them up and go to a relative's or friend's house that lives in the next county that has heat? I don't know. At that point, you're scrambling and you're doing what you can do to survive. Lose electricity. Yeah, I just covered that. If you're in the middle of winter and you have indicated to your neighbor, hey, if we have any problems, can you give me a call? Maybe you talk to that neighbor, maybe you talk to a family member, maybe you talk to a friend, and if you get that call, yeah, we're down, and the city doesn't plan to be up for 3 days. Maybe at that point, and you're below zero temperatures, maybe at that point you're calling up, hey, cousin Joey, go to my house, and we talked about this before, go to my house and grab the animals and take them to your house for 3 days. Very seldom will you have a problem where you just put them in ventilated, sterilized containers, and they just hold on to them for 3 days, and you're probably not going to have a problem.
You might even be able to, if it's a time that you're really worried and you've got, for us, that would be horrible because we don't have, to take all the animals out of here wouldn't work.
No.
So maybe that's something that if you were going to be gone, you could check in an area and see, do they have rentals for generators for the week you're gone? Rent a generator, have it at home, just in case. It might be worth that.
So you're getting
larger.
God, that's another really good idea.
For larger groups or harder to move animals or whatever, it might be worth having a generator.
So you're going to pay a little bit more, but you're going to get that generator before you call your neighbor and it's already been 18 hours without electricity. Hey, go to Home Depot and get a little generator. They're gone.
Yeah,
they're gone. You're not going to get one.
See if somebody runs them ahead of time.
That's a big hassle for your neighbor to do something like that. And you want to make all these things easy.
Your neighbor might move into your house for that time frame too because they've got a heater electric.
We talked. Anybody questions? I think I'm down to one of my last points. I think we've kind of talked through some of these emergency kind of situations. We talked about cameras. And we talked about, I want to see the animals. I want to make sure everybody's okay. And that's super cool. And if you can do that and still be comfortable and not stressed on your vacation, that's super cool. For me personally, I like to walk away and I like to go, okay, animals, and now it's fishing, or tour, sites and history and stuff like that. I want to check out of the animals for a week. I want to be done. I want to be done with the animals. If I get a call about an emergency or I get a call about a question, hey, this happened or whatever, that's a different thing. But I really don't want to be focusing on the animals at any time. Because, it might be, just like Nanette said, it might be, I've got a camera looking at my animals. Let me just watch the animals for 10 or 15 minutes or a half hour or 2 hours or whatever.
No.
It's for me, I just want to go off on vacation and enjoy my vacation. So I couldn't do the cameras.
We haven't been on a vacation for several years.
No, we're talking about
and not because of animals, but we just haven't gone on a vacation to worry about it. Yeah, we'll be gone for a few days, but we also have Crystal here that can handle anything. Do you remember when you went to Tinley the one year and I called you in a panic? because we had crested geckos hatching like, I don't know,
Lots.
rabbits
Lots and
everywhere.
lots.
All of a sudden I had like, I'd call them and say, I have 6. Nope, sorry, now there's 10. They were all hatching that weekend.
The trouble
That
with
was a panic.
tribbles, Sandy is saying, and you kind of alluded to this, Nanette, and I'll jump on what Sandy just said.
Emergency.
You know,
rooms.
if you have, and we kind of touched on this a little bit earlier, it wouldn't hurt to have some of these bins already ready for somebody. Like if you had an emergency and you had to have your cousin, Billy, take the animals, you better have containers with all the right stuff in it so that he can pack up and get them out as easy as he or she possibly can, and get them to his or her house. So be prepared. It doesn't hurt to be prepared beforehand. And Sandy's saying that you can't put them, the skinks together. So you'd have to kind of plan all of that out.
The other thing too, if you're having a friend or somebody else taking care of your animals, make sure they're comfortable handling whatever animals you have, because they might say yes, they can feed them for you, but if there was the escapee, are they going to go after the escapee, or are they going to just let it go? If it was me and it was a snake that came out of the tank, I'm gone too. So sorry.
You think we could get your sisters to
No.
handle all of our tarantulas?
My sisters won't even handle the geckos, let alone tarantulas. No. And I think Julie Moore was looking for help on the 4th.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
We have company that whole weekend. Sorry, Julie. She asked Wally, and I'm like, yeah, no. We're busy, unfortunately. Well, fortunately, but unfortunately, can't help you out there.
Yeah. Can Frank put his link up in the chat? So, I want to touch just real quick before we wrap up tonight. And this was, intended to be kind of informal, but kind of formal as well with some of these points. And I hope it helped people kind of think through some things maybe that they didn't think about before. I love the video idea that Frank and Nanette had, and some of the other ideas that popped up. And hopefully, if you're taking on the potential stress of going on vacation, maybe you can revisit this video and kind of learn a couple of the tricks that we just talked about. Don't be afraid. And it's never, because we do have a lot of animals downstairs, it's always been a concern for us to go on vacation, but it's never been a fear of going on vacation. It's just that we've had other things going on. And now that we're kind of planning one to be gone for about a week, I don't think it's going to be an issue, because we have somebody to help take care of the animals. And if it were 4 or 5 or 6 or 10 animals, it would be one thing. But with several hundred, it's a different proposition. So I don't think I'm afraid to leave the animals. Am I going to be a little concerned? A little bit, but I'll set up instructions and I'll make them simple, and I'll have dishes out, and I'll have ice cubes, and I'll have colored stickers or colored tape, painter's tape on enclosures, that literally the more graphical I can make it for somebody, more visual, graphical. It's graphical. More visual I can make something for somebody, the easier it is for me, and the easier it is for somebody else. There's no way that you can plan on having an ice storm and be down, and you just kind of have to think about what do I do if that happens, as more of a contingency. But you can't plan for it. You certainly shouldn't, set hours and hours thinking about what you do and make all kinds of plans. It might just come down to I'm getting on the first flight home, and I'll solve it that way.
Side note, J-Bug did her comments up there right now. She actually feels better about a vacation now after this today, because she hadn't planned. She was wanting to go, but she was afraid and didn't know where to start. So this has helped. The other side note too, I was just thinking as you were saying that, it isn't a bad idea to have in the back of your mind, maybe, what would happen if I can't take care of my animals? Or what would happen? I mean, we went through that whole conversation when COVID hit, you and I. What do I do differently, or what do I take care of if you can't? Or if you had a family emergency and you had to walk out the door right now, just have something in the back. Don't spend hours planning it, but just have something that's general that somebody could pick up the pieces quick if you needed to take off really fast for something. You never know.
No, I like that idea. So we could literally tag on, don't go on vacation without doing this for your animals, as changing it to be, don't go on vacation and plan for being, I don't know how, plan for being sick for a week.
Or an emergency.
In emergency,
sort.
yeah. We could kind of tag. So all the stuff that we talked about today, all the tips, all the techniques, all the works for that as well. Nobody's going to plan to be ill for more than a week or so. Then you're kind of talking about, extreme circumstances, but this really works if you're going to be down for a week because of COVID or because a surgery or anything. I'm going to be out for a week and I can't take care of the animals, so this kind of applies. To tag onto that as a great idea, Nanette, is maybe we don't have a vacation, maybe we're not planning on being gone for a week, but maybe we should plan on, while he's sick for a week and can't take care of the animals. So what do we do? And that ties hand in hand with the vacation. So maybe I do pull out the painter's tape and I pull out the ice cubes and make up Crested Gecko diet and write on the painter's tape 1 cube, 2 cube, stuff like that.
Have a video ahead of time.
Have a video prepared. God, what a great idea. And have some of that stuff so that, if I'm down for a week, what happens? Now, I think you can go through without a problem and make sure everybody's healthy for a week or two without any problem. But maybe, your spouse, your friend, your significant other, what can maybe help in a situation like that. Maybe they don't today. Well, maybe they might have to tomorrow. You just never know.
It's just kind of a backup thought. And you already have things pretty well labeled down there. I mean, I know. And maybe have a list of what's the must-haves, the first ones that you're only
priorities.
Maybe
Good call.
These are the ones that have to get water today or whatever. But you're more, I don't know. Some of them are more fragile. Your babies are more fragile than your adults possibly. So pick and choose what you have to if you need something.
Cassandra, absolutely. Think of it this way too. What if that friend isn't available the next time? So kind of go through that process too. And what do I do if I have to retrain somebody? How do I do that? Make it simple for them. Make it let me say it this way, make it as simple as you possibly can. Because the simpler you have a process, the more likely that you're going to get them to come over the next time. You have 10 or 12 pages. I tell you what, man, if I'm reading 12 pages to take care of the animals and what should take, what in my mind should take 15 or 20 minutes now takes 2 hours, I'm going to think twice about coming back. Thank you, Frank.
JP just also said, make sure you always have extra light bulbs out in case one of your heat lamp bulbs go out when you're gone, if you've got somebody that's taking care of something. And leave a little treat for your person that's doing the work for you. Yeah, leave them a little surprise.
Absolutely a 6-pack, at least.
For me, it would be chocolate.
I'm talking Sprecker's root beer. We're in Wisconsin.
Chocolate.
I meant Sprecker's root beer.
Chocolate.
Somebody had a great. Thank you very much, Frank, for doing that. Here we go. So TJ is, as a chronically ill person, I have ups and downs and can't push myself past a certain point. Absolutely. I try my best to slightly over prepare or have standby people I can manage as a last
message.
I can message as a last chance. Absolutely. Good call. Nobody anticipates being ill for a week, but it's going to happen.
Or if you have an out-of-town emergency for family members or something.
Business trip.
Yeah, that was your fish days.
Oh my gosh, I was gone every other week. The heat, there you go. The heat bulbs, what's the worst that can happen? If you have a heat lamp, a heat bulb, something giving the animals heat, what happens if they don't get heat for a week? You kind of have to go through that. Is it worth having the extra bulbs, going through that training process and pull out and put in, or just leave it alone and the animals are going to go without heat? You have to think about the situation. I mean, are you a breeder? Is that going to take them off of their breeding schedule? Is it going to directly impact the ability for that animal to feed and get food. Is it okay if they don't eat for a week and they're a little bit colder? I don't know. We know this for absolutely sure. Most animals are going to go through. Look at the heat, that we just got in the last 2 days. And tomorrow, I heard that it's supposed to be 38 degrees outside. So maybe I'm joking a little
Where?
bit. It's in Antarctica.
Yeah.
So animals go through this most of the time. Most animals go through this in nature where it's 20 degrees cooler the next day. So is it that big of a deal? I don't know. You have to think of your own situation if it's important enough for you to have a light bulb ready to be replaced, and you can do the instructions for that person that way.
And it's going to depend huge on who you have helping. Somebody may enjoy being there for a couple hours and want to putz and do things. Somebody else is going to want to come in an hour's time, feed that thing, and in and out of the house as soon as they can or whatever. So,
thank you. Absolutely. Okay. On exotics, I have somebody that's starting off and knows the bare minimum of what to do. And then I also have a backup person that is trying to start their own reptile zoo that comes and takes care of my animals. That's perfect. And maybe you have the day-to-day, and it's not Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Friday, but it's maybe, Tuesday and Thursday. Maybe you have the day-to-day, that Tuesday and Thursday. Somebody that doesn't have that experience comes in and does stuff like that. And maybe because you're in Honolulu, if they have a problem, they can talk to your friend that's the more experienced person that can come over and help them out while you're sipping your, I don't even know what they have in Honolulu.
I don't know because I've never been there.
Mai Tais? I don't know.
It's a fruity drink.
Whatever the fruity drink in Honolulu is. Hope that's making sense. Thank you very much, everybody, for the great ideas, the great comments. This isn't a solve everything episode. It never will be. There's always going to be certain situations that you just can't plan for, that you just can't account for. We used to have clients at vet clinics call and ask about that's familiar with reptiles. I volunteer every time. Just thought, absolutely, and I strongly suggest if you have somebody that even has any issues, and possibly you have a vet visit during the time that you're gone, maybe think of another alternative. Odin, that is a great idea. You have a friend coming in, but hey, let me leave you Frank's phone number so that if you have a problem, call Frank and he'll walk you through it. He'll fly in from Detroit and he's going to take care of the animals while we have this issue.
Wow.
Yeah, how about that? Frank is
good.
Such a good person. He is. He's so good. Any other questions real quick? I want to say thank you again for everybody coming by and listening and the input. This has been a fun live stream. It was kind of interesting because this doesn't happen to us that often. We had a guest that we kind of asked last minute. Not last minute. We gave him some time. 55555. And it just didn't work out where they couldn't make it, and I greatly appreciate that. And we were kind of thinking about drawing on this weekend, and I said, well, no, let's go live and we'll talk about some stuff. And so that was pretty cool that we did. I'm really happy that we did. And again, hopefully this helps some people. If you're in the area, we will be in La Crosse Saturday, day after tomorrow, for the Scaled Up Expo show. Lots of animals, and we're looking forward to bringing some pretty cool animals. And I'm looking at the comments.
I know.
Waffles 911. And I'm looking forward to meeting everybody that shows up. So thank you again, everyone. We'll see you next time.
Have a good night.
Have a good night.